2025 is finally here, and it is time, I think, for Manchester United to make some progress. Now, progress could look like a few different things. It could be behind the scenes, it could be player development, tactical tweaks, and of course, transfers in 5 positions in particular, which is exactly what we are going to be looking at today. Before we get into that, if you could quickly subscribe, it would be greatly appreciated. You might as well do it. You know you want to, so press subscribe, and then we'll get into the video. Now, when you actually go through the Manchester United squad, I think it's pretty immediately fairly obvious where Manchester United need to strengthen. There are a lot of weaknesses in this squad, and we start off in this left centre-back position, where in my opinion, Manchester United of course have some quality in Lisandro Martinez, but his form recently has been a little bit poor. But more than that, I think there is a certain profile of player that United are lacking in this position. What United desperately need to try and find at some point in 2025, whether it be to replace Lisandro Martinez or to be an understudy, is an athletic channel defender. Someone that is actually comfortable dealing with wide situations. We know that in the back three, we often end up with a front five in the attack. This means when we lose the ball, the left-sided centre-back is responsible for defending out wide, and this just isn't a strength for Lisandro Martinez. We need a player that is more comfortable in these areas. That means we need a bit of mobility, a bit of agility, but also athleticism. This is a large space, so we need someone that is comfortable covering that amount of ground. We of course though also need someone that is good in the air. We certainly currently lack that on the left hand side of defence, and in moments we can get away with it, but particularly when it comes to defending our own box, we need players that are dominant in these areas. So when the crosses are coming in from out wide, we need 3 players across the middle here who are good and strong in the air, and again currently we lack that on the left side of defence. So that is something that Manchester United need to try and find. And then finally, the other thing that we need from this left centre-back is ball playing ability. If we are trying to replace Lisandro Martinez or have a future backup, whatever, we need someone who can not necessarily match his ball playing ability, because I think that's quite difficult, but we need someone that can progress the ball. That is very important for Ruben Amorim and the way that he uses his outside centre-backs. So basically, I think United need a new left centre-back this year. Now, as well as bringing players into the club in 2025, there will also be certain players that leave the club, and of course that will dictate what we can do in the transfer market. For example, in midfield, we are going to need reinforcements because it is very likely that both Christian Eriksen and Casemiro will leave the club in the next 6 months or so. So Manchester United will need a new central midfielder, probably 2 realistically, to fill the squad. Now, in terms of the profile that we need, I think Manchester United are crying out for a physical presence. Someone who is tall, strong, combative, and really dominates the duels in midfield. Currently, the closest thing we have is Manuel Ugarte, and he is good, he is strong, he is physical, but he's not actually the biggest player in the world. He is still our best dueler in the squad, but we need someone actually a little bit better, someone who brings a robust nature to the midfield, particularly for those games where we need to partner someone with Ugarte to really take control of the physical battles. For example, when we play the likes of Liverpool, Newcastle, Arsenal perhaps, these teams are simply too physical for us. We need to address that in the middle of the park. We need players that can cover large spaces, that can be combative, and that can win their battles. But importantly, we don't just want a lump, we need a technician still as well. This player does need to be able to play with the ball at their feet. I think short carries and things like that are always important for Ruben Amorim. But I think naturally big midfielders tend to be able to do that to an extent. They tend to have good drives to the way that they play, and they can sort of shuttle up and down the pitch. But I think it's something that we desperately need. In terms of the other profile that we need, I think we are looking more for a metronome, someone that can control the ball and really dictate the tempo of a football match. Manchester United really lack a pass-first midfielder, or certainly we will when Christian Eriksen leaves the club. Ugarte likes to carry the ball, and when he does pass it is very safe. Kobbie Mainoo is a ball carrier. We need someone who gets the ball and actually wants to pass it about and really control the tempo of a game. Now, importantly, this player again needs to be physical, and that is going to be the theme for me throughout 2025. We need players that can win their battles. So yes, technical quality is very important. We need that ability to take the ball in tight spaces, keep the ball for our side, manage possession. All of that is incredibly important. But it's only really of true value if defensively the players can do the work that we need. They need to be able to cover ground. Now, of course, this one doesn't need to be as elite physically, because if not, we are asking for the most complete midfielder in the world, and that's going to be very difficult for us to do. But I do think we need that player who wants to get on the ball and pass it about to control the tempo of a game and really just dictate things, almost being a little bit like the coach on the pitch. A lot of the best teams in the world have that. Rodri at Manchester City, he kind of leads how Pep Guardiola wants his side to play. United need that type of midfielder this year. Now, if United are able to make some of those signings this year, in the back line, but also in midfield, our core and our foundation will be much stronger. The spine of the team physically will be much more capable, but also hopefully technically as well. And immediately, that is going to help Manchester United progress. We also need to remember we do have players coming through the academy as well. Collier is someone who will want minutes, Sekou Kone as well. But I think, just generally speaking, we need recruitment in those areas. But also, not just the spine of the team, we also need to work on the wide areas as well, which really shows just how much United need to do this year. But particularly the wing-back position, and particularly on the left-hand side. Currently, United have literally nothing for that position. This isn't a case of replacing a player who might be leaving or upgrading a player. We literally currently have no one to play as the left wing-back at Manchester United. There is not a single player that really suits this role. So this is something that United are absolutely desperate for. I would try and do this as soon as possible. This would probably be my focus. This would probably be the primary position that I would want United to address. First thing we need is pace and athleticism. The wing-back role is incredibly difficult. It asks a lot of whoever plays this position. We need someone that can match that can get up the pitch and be an attacking threat, but also track back and get into a back five as well. It's a difficult job. We need a true athlete in this position. And again, I think we are looking for physicality. Players that can dominate their duels, can go into 1v1s, both on and off the ball, win their battles, and that's going to put United in a greater position. I also think, in an ideal world, this player is left-footed. How often do we go on about that under Erik ten Hag, but also now Ruben Amorim? We need some balance in this squad. We have so many right-footed players that all play to the same side of the pitch. We need something to go the other way. We need someone who can stretch it, go the other way. And left wing-back is the best opportunity to do that. Getting a left-footed player down this side just naturally gives us more width. It gives us a wing-back that wants to hug the touchline, stretches the opposition, and not only does that make us more threatening out wide, but also in the middle of the pitch as well because of the greater space that we've created. Now, I actually think finding a player that can do those things is fairly easy. I think there's a lot of left-backs out there at the moment that could do this. I think what United really need to look for, and the player that will ultimately stand out and we will eventually sign, hopefully, is someone who can offer us that little bit in the final third. We need a more productive attacking threat than your traditional fullback because our wingbacks do play so high. They aren't defensive players. They are part of our attacking setup. So this player does need to be able to get into the final third. We need good deliveries into the box, but also a variety of deliveries. We don't want a player who just relies on the same cross every time. We need someone who can get wide and whip it in. We need someone who can get to the byline and cut it back. Perhaps someone who can flash a low ball across the box. We need variety from this position. There are options out there. We spoke about some of them a couple of weeks ago if you want to go check out that video. But I think it will be vital for Manchester United. Wingbacks are so important for Ruben Amorim and the way that he wants to play. On the right, I think we've got a few players that can do it. On the left, we're really desperate. Now, the final position that Manchester United need, and I say final, I use that term a little bit loosely, we need more than this as well. But if we're talking about the top five, the last position we need is some sort of inside forward. Now, I'm not actually going to restrict this as saying which side, whether it's the left or the right, because that's open to interpretation, how you perceive the current Manchester United squad and the best position of certain players currently at the club. But regardless, we need a specialist in this position. I think the big thing we need is someone more powerful, someone who can drive and carry the ball. These are tight spaces. They are difficult to operate in. You are nearly always going to come up with physical contact against an opponent. We need players that can start to ride that contact, feel that contact, and actually use it to their advantage. To throw the opposition off balance, to exploit gaps in the defence. We need someone, whether it be on the left or the right, that can bring that extra drive in here, burst over a few yards. It doesn't have to be 20-yard carries, but the 5-6-yard carries, which just give you that little bit of an advantage. It commits the extra defender, which might make space for someone else. That's what we are really crying out for in this position. But importantly, it's also retention work as well. Our inside forwards do a lot of work receiving with their back to goal. So they are facing their own goal like this. They're going to receive the ball in this position. Defender up behind them. We need players that are better in this position. Bruno Fernandes, it's not his game. Even Ahmad, who I like as an inside forward, isn't really suited to this job. Mason Mount is probably the best, but he's always out injured. We need someone who can bring that ball retention. to protect the ball, because that's going to allow the whole United team to move further up the pitch, and then we can sustain attacks more regularly. Then we can see the short carries, the bursts into the final third, the committing of extra defenders, and United will straight away look like a better attacking outlet. And then, of course, the other thing we need from this player is exactly that, an attacking outlet. They need to be a goal scorer, or someone who's going to grab a lot of assists, or in an ideal world, someone that can do both. Now, again, there's several players out there. Some of them play for Champions League clubs, so are difficult to get, but some of them don't. Some of them are much lower down the league and actually potentially quite attainable for Manchester United. But I do think it is a position that we desperately need to address. On paper, we have a lot of wingers, we have a lot of attackers, but in terms of specialists, inside forwards, we really lack them. So I think United need one of those minimum in 2025. And that probably sums up that there is a lot of work for Ruben Amorim and his recruitment team to do this summer, or this year, I should say, January and in summer. There's a lot for United to do. I think these are the 5 positions that I would be prioritising. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Perhaps you want something different. Do we need a goalkeeper, a central centre-back, a right wing-back, striker? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But apart from that, we are finished for today. So thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.